just think for a moment of all the times in your life where you have compared yourself with other people and where you have tried to hide from your own weaknesses, and you've covered them over, and you have effectively lied about them to yourself, first and foremost, and then to other people. Maybe not direct outward lying, but I'm absolutely certain, I pretty much can guarantee that there was an inner lying going on. And where you have done the same thing with your strengths, with what's really special or unique about you, the gifts that you bring that are not exactly the same as anybody else's, and make you feel exposed or out on the edge or just different. And look at the way that you have also papered over those. Just put them aside a little bit so that you can be more ordinary, and lied to yourself about your strengths as well as about your weaknesses. Just think about that. How much energy as children, as young adults, as all the way through, how much energy we put into hiding from where we are. It's like not admitting it. So when we have, it comes up very especially in relationship, when we have an issue with the relationship, we immediately, it's so easy to start pretending everything's all right, pretending everything's going to be all right, just covering it over so the status quo doesn't get disturbed. With health, we have magic pills we can take, so we don't even need to cover it over. Just take the pill, and let's not look at the fact that something caused me to be sick, and that there's something there that I might need to have a look at or change. And of course, with money, it's the same thing, and with business, so strong. How much, just look again back over your life, how much torture have you done on yourself for weaknesses and failures in business, for not being where you should be, or where you think you should be, or other people think you should be, for not having achieved exactly what you thought you ought to have achieved by a certain time. And for all those stirrings in you of what you'd really love to do, what you really want to contribute, and the way you've sat on it, just squashed it, and kept things safe, kept things normal, kept things within what you perceive to be the status quo. And look at how much energy it takes to do all of that, to cover up the weaknesses, to cover up the strengths. And then look at the comparisons with other people. This is where, especially where people are depressed, and when I'm talking, as I talk about depression now, I don't just mean clinically depressed. It's the same pattern. If you tend to just not have that deep, profound motivation to create whatever it is you really want to create fully with your whole heart, you know, if you have that kind of holding back, that's also a kind of mild depression, lack of motivation to really go all out. So common. It's like a little tinge of apathy. What I find with people, you know, wherever I find that, I find comparison, comparing myself with other people, and seeing that I'm not as good as other people at this thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And that immediately gives me, and I don't talk only about myself, I talk about many people who I know and meet and speak with every day. It gives us that reason to, it's like a reason to not be so successful, because other people are better at that than me. And therefore, I'm not very good at that. And there's a satisfaction in it almost. It's like, oh, phew, I don't need to be so good. I'm not as good as them. So, phew, that means that's the reason why I'm where I am. And then you kind of stay there and you can't change it. And if you notice, the people who really develop and really grow great things, they don't do that. They look at somebody else and they see that that person has something that they want. So they recognize their envy, for example, and instead of hiding from it and sort of putting it away inside themselves, they say, I want that. That person has a really good relationship. My relationship isn't so good. Instead of feeling inadequate and inferior, they say, I wonder how they do that. What's different about them from me? What can I learn from that person? So instead of having envy, they allow themselves to have a natural respect and curiosity for everything that's good in life, everything that touches them, everything that they want. That person's running a really good business, and it's a bit similar to my kind of business. So what can I learn from them? Not, oh, they're better than me. They're doing so much better than me. I'm never going to be able to do that. And we can have that subtle language, even if we don't have it really outwardly. It hides in all kinds of corners. I've met quite a few people recently who are actually running pretty successful businesses and have such a sense of inadequacy. In fact, I can think of one person who, maybe I've got this wrong, but this is the sense that I have. I know that he struggled all his life with feeling inadequate and is running a good business and was helping me with some stuff. And then we actually met, and perhaps he realized that I'm not as good as he is at business, but there's something that I have that perhaps he doesn't have. And it's like that, the connection, the contact is gone. Even if I send him an email, he doesn't respond anymore. Now, I'm not sure if that's the reason, but that's the sense that I get. It's like when we have that, when we hold that deep sense of inadequacy inside ourselves, it actually prevents us from communicating clearly with people. It prevents us from putting ourselves out in the world fully. It prevents us from sharing the gifts that we have, because we harbor the inadequacy. And I think of many times, especially where I've done that around people who are running better businesses than me, so that I couldn't just feel natural and have a conversation with them. It was like this real weakness inside myself that instead of being curious, like, wow, how do you do that? It's like, I'm not good enough to talk to you. I'm sure everybody can relate to that in some area. You might be really good in one area. In one area, you might be really willing to learn, and anything that's really good, you go out there and find it. But there's somewhere where you hide that and you hold the inadequacy rather than simply admitting it. This is the thing. The freedom comes when you start to admit it, when you just say, I'm not very good at that, or I'm not as good at that as I'd like to be. That's just a fact. And when it becomes a fact and there's no emotion wrapped around it, it actually becomes really easy to deal with. And when you can say to somebody who's much cleverer than you or doing much better than you in something, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you say that again for me, please? Can you help me to understand? You're going too fast for me. I'm not keeping up, but I really want to learn what you have to learn. That's a difficult thing to do, because it's so easy to pretend somebody's teaching you something and they're going along talking their language because they know, and you think, I've got to just listen. And you don't really understand, and you don't dare to say that you don't understand because it'll make you look stupid. That's a behavior we learnt in school, not to expose yourself and look stupid. The moment you can admit your own stupidity, your own perceived inadequacy, the moment you can say to somebody, I'm really interested and I don't understand, or I want to understand more, or can you say that differently, or can you slow down, or can you go step by step? I'm not as clever as you in this area. And I'd love to be able to show you how clever I am, but right now I can't. It's not easy. But the interesting thing is, and this is what so many people don't realize, I noticed, those people who are super clever at things, they very often run along their own tramway so fast that people don't connect with them very well. And they don't always have the satisfaction that they're looking for, because they're so wrapped up in the brilliance that they have that other people can't always follow. And then the other people around them are saying, oh my goodness, this person's so amazing, I just need to run to catch up. And there's a lack of connection and communication. And something happens when the person who's slower says, hey, wait, I need to understand. And the other person can feel irritated sometimes, like, oh, you're just not at my level. But if you can actually get that communication happening, that's where the real transformation happens. That's where a business can start to fly, because the person with the great ideas is able to listen to the more ordinary people, who no doubt are the people who are going to work in the business, the people who are going to buy products or services from that business, the people who are going to invest in that business. They're all those people who kind of cluster around that brilliant person. But where the communication, the human level of communication, where we're all equal, is not happening, there is a lack of feedback in that business. So when you ask somebody for advice or for help, or you really want to learn from them genuinely, really genuinely, and you're honest in your questions, and you're honest with your own lack of ability, so that you can just listen, you can actually take on board what they're saying, and you communicate as you are. You don't hide what you don't know. That honesty opens doors, it opens communication, it totally changes the dynamic. So when you come at it with a sense of inadequacy, and then you want to learn from another person, or you want to connect with another person, it's very easy for a dynamic to grow, which quickly becomes a kind of fight somehow, an energetic fight. You're fighting to hold yourself together in this situation, and the other person's not really listening properly. The moment you don't need to protect yourself in that way, and you can really admit where you are, that opens up. And the same with your strengths. How many people hide what they really know. Just yesterday, I was in a conversation with somebody who hides some of the best of what she does. She hides it all behind another front. And I understand why we do that. But what happens when you actually step out into the world with your strengths fully showing up? Not afraid of your weaknesses, willing to learn and grow and be patient, but really willing to share your gifts. There's a fear that everybody will reject you. You know that the most likely place of rejection is when you try to project your gifts outwards from that place of inadequacy. When you have the fear of being rejected, that's when it's so easy to be rejected. But if you simply accept, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I give, this is what I feel called to do and to give and to share. This feels like really me. I really feel in my place here. If you can allow that and let go of that fear of rejection, and you really let go of that fear when you stop having to cover up your weaknesses and your lack. If you can simply be who you are and admit who you are and tell the story of who you are and be able to laugh at yourself, it's very unlikely that you'll be rejected. But if you pretend, like, well, I have these gifts, this is what's really special about me, and I'm not going to let you see the parts of me that are not as good. I'm only going to show you the bits that I think are really good. Everyone can feel that. That's where you get rejection. That's where you get mocking, and people can laugh at you, and people can be really nasty in that situation. But when people are really open and honest about themselves, and they're not trying to hide anything about themselves, there's such a refreshing quality to being with those people, and an equalizing quality. They recognize the humanity. It's easy to recognize the humanity in all of us. You know, we all have strengths and weaknesses. More and more, my sense really is that it's equally balanced, and it always will be. However strong you get, there are going to be weaknesses. They may be different. There's always going to be stuff that needs to grow. And so to be able to face both of these, the strengths and the weaknesses, the ways that you compare yourself favorably and unfavorably with others, and just to see yourself for who you are as clearly as you can, that really is a significant element of liberation, true liberation, because there's no fear anymore. If you're not having to hide from yourself or from other people the fact that your relationship is not in a good place at the moment, you can get help. You can talk openly with your partner. Even if they respond negatively, you can still be open. You can still say, yes, but this is how I feel. This is me. This is where I am. And when you show up as who you are, little by little, you give them permission to show up who they are. And from there, you can heal. If you're pretending, if you're afraid, you can't heal. It's impossible. Healing is actually impossible until you open up and you're honest. And it's the same with money. I sit in meetings and I watch people trying to hide the amount of money or where they are in their business. In fact, a good number of the people who come to the Consciousness of Money retreat, they are afraid of a certain lack of money. They don't have as much money as they think they ought to have, or they wish they had. And there's so much pretense that goes with that. And it's not that you need to sit and tell everybody this is exactly where I am. You may be in a business meeting and it's not relevant. But the fear, if there's a fear there that somebody's going to see that you haven't done what you think they think you should have done. That's the thing, you know, you're projecting. They're going to expect something of me amazing, and I don't feel so amazing. And then this hiding comes up. And that's what creates that really uncomfortable vibe. And the minute somebody is just able to accept, this is me, this is where I am, this is what I've got. If this is a problem, I'll solve it, but I don't have to hide it. There's such freedom for you, and there's such freedom for other people. And if somebody really rejects you when you're like that, if somebody really wants to force you to be dishonest with yourself in order to play with them, you might question whether you actually want to play with that person. So you may need to give them time to find themselves, if it's an individual situation, if it's a business situation, if it's a business that has no honesty in it. You may find that you're better to build the ethic that you want in your business, build the kind of relationships that you want to have in your business, to create a foundation for long-term business and for really thriving, rather than a business where you're constantly papering over the cracks in the hope that nobody looks. Because in the end, that business, it may be for a while successful financially, but the price that you pay when you sacrifice your own integrity is a much greater price. And in the end, that will impact you financially as well as everything else, because you pay with your health, you pay with your happiness, you pay with the really important things. And then you can't sustain yourself in business anymore. And, you know, people get sick. I see this all the time. People get sick and they don't connect it with the fact that they've been insincere to themselves, that they've been so unaccepting. They just think, oh, I'm sick now. That's what happens. And they take it in their stride and they get on with it and do everything. And I look at it and it's like, don't you realize this is all connected? Especially the chronic illnesses, you know, the heart problems, cancer, diabetes, chronic fatigue, adrenal stuff, all of these, they're so directly connected. And yeah, the connection just doesn't seem to be made. Even I find that even with people who have worked with me for a while, because we don't deal so much with health, because I'm not doing healing as such all the time. They just think, oh yeah, okay, sickness, that's just something that happens. Okay, I've got this now. And don't see the connection with that when you're sincere, really sincere with yourself and sincere with other people, let go of all the secrets, then it's so easy to be healthy in all the different parts of your life. So that sincerity starts with being honest with yourself. Honest that this is who I am. These are the mistakes I've made. These are the ways in which I've failed. These are the ways in which I'm weak. These are my strengths. These are the things that I've achieved. These are the areas where I really have something to give. And there's a connection between those two, usually, that those areas of weakness need to be strengthened in order for you to bring your greatest gift to the world. And that strengthening happens through honesty. Because the minute you see clearly where you're weak, you start to get stronger. You don't need to do something most of the time. You need to observe very clearly and let go of the emotion. Ah, there it is again. Breathe, relax. You get a little bit stronger. Oh, there it is again. No emotion, no, oh, you idiot. But just, there's that one showing up. See it for what it is, and you get a little bit stronger. And it takes tremendous patience, and it's really powerful.